Thanks for joining us. Our guest, Gabriela Lira, she is a real estate broker with Compass Realty, and we're taking phone calls talking about the real estate market, how it plays out right now. Now, we said the interest rate's gone up, so because of that, fewer people buying, and you've got sellers out there thinking, why didn't I sell when the market was better?
Yes.
What advice for them right now?
There are people that still have to buy no matter what the interest rate is, no matter what the prices are. Those are work moves, work relocations, right? Divorces. There are still buyers out there for you. But now we're going back to the old tried and true ways of selling your house. It needs to look good. You need to get your house market ready. It needs to be priced right. And you need to have a multi-channel marketing plan for your home to get it in front of the most buyers possible. So you can still do it. You can still sell your home. Maybe it's going to sit a little bit longer. Days on market last month were 39 days. 39 days, just over a month. That is still fairly low.
What was it before that?
Well, about a year ago, it was 10, 15 days less.
Okay, so now it's 39 days on market for the typical home to sell in the Nashville area?
Yes.
That's longer than I thought it would be. But I mean, I'm just thinking because it was such a hot market. So when you put it on, what are we seeing? Are the buyers local, or are we still seeing, people choosing to come here? You hear a lot about folks coming from California, other areas. Nashville's a hot area. Where are they coming from? Because I would think if you're leaving Malibu, I don't care what it costs here, and everyone acts like the prices here are like, oh, we're really up high now. You have no idea.
Aspen.
The money from Los Angeles compared to here is night and day. It is so. You sell a house in Malibu, you can buy anything you want in Middle Tennessee.
Pretty much right.
Yeah.
So we are still seeing a mix of local buyers and relocating buyers. And to your point, it's still comparatively affordable to live here. If you're leaving Malibu, it's definitely more affordable to purchase a home here. You're buying a fixer-upper there for $3 million. You come here, you get an amazing home for the same amount. So it's still relatively affordable. Because there are less buyers and more buyers sitting on the sidelines and buyers having more purchasing power, meaning they're able to negotiate more, some homes that are sitting on the market, sellers are getting creative and they're doing things like 2-1 buy downs. So essentially what they mean by that is that they're working with a mortgage lender, with a mortgage broker to say, hey, I'm willing to buy down this buyer's rate for the first 2 years. So let's say rates are 7.5%. They say, okay, so for the first year, the rate will be 5.5%, and for the second year, their rate will be 6.25%.
That's the builders or the sellers saying this, or the?
Yeah, so this is the seller working in conjunction with a lender to create an incentive for the buyer that's purchasing their home. So they're buying down your rate for the first 2 years of your mortgage.
Okay, does that mean the seller has to pay the difference?
So the seller is paying
I'll pay that 2%, so they're only paying 5% for the first 2 years.
Let's say it costs them $10,000 to do this. Well, they were going to have to bring the price down anyway to move it. So they're saying, why not do it this way? And you don't have to wait as a buyer for the seller to offer that. You can go into the seller and ask them for a 2-1 buy down. That way they buy your rate down for the first 2 years. And guess what? By the end of that second year, you might be able to refinance anyway. So winning.
It won't go back up. Exactly. Okay, that's what I was going to ask you. So do you negotiate the buy down 2-1? If it's 7%, would you say, will you guys take 2% of that for me?
Yeah, you have to work with the lender to
negotiate back and forth on how that works.
You negotiate.
Okay. Wow, that's some creative financing. They're going that way. You said for a while there, a lot of realtors were getting phone calls from these corporate investors from all around the country buying up blocks of homes whenever they came up for sale, which made it harder for locals to buy. Is that still happening?
It's still happening.
Really? I thought that might have, because that's a bummer. I mean, it's where they're essentially buying and then they're either renting, which really infuriates the other homeowners in that neighborhood, or they're buying them up and then selling them for a profit themselves because they're investment companies. These aren't individuals buying them to move in. They're buying them as an investment. It's an asset, and then they wait, and then they sell them marked up price. That's still happening?
That is definitely still happening. What is happening now that wasn't happening in the past is builders giving a bunch of incentives. So builders are stuck with these subdivisions. Homes aren't moving at the pace that they want them to be moving at. So they're offering buyers closing costs. They're offering buyers $20,000 in free upgrades to incentivize them to purchase that house, because if you're looking at the national headlines, you'll see that builders have had more contract cancellations than they've had in years. And so they're trying to keep their buyers and they're trying to attract buyers. Some builders are also now paying real estate agents more, or some people would say fairly, to bring a buyer into their community.
So would you mean at one point when the market was really hot, some of these builders would not pay you what you deserved?
Commissions in the state of Tennessee are negotiable. However,
so when it was hot, they could say, look, this is what you get for bringing a buyer to me.
So they were like, oh, I'm just going to give you a flat fee for bringing me the buyer, and that flat fee was below what I would generally get if I took this buyer to a regular resale home.
But at that point, you kind of had no choice.
You took what you got.
Is the shoe on the other foot yet?
Oh, it is. The tables are turning. And this is what we have to remember in this market. The tables always turn. Real estate market is cyclical. So treat everyone fairly with respect, because the tables will eventually turn.
Can you remind folks then that you're talking about builder's fees? If someone hires you or a real estate agent to help them with a home, what percent out of the sale of the home or the purchase typically does a real estate agent charge?
Remember, commissions are negotiable,
Okay,
but generally it's 6%. When the seller hires me to sell their home, I charge them 6%, and 3 of that, so half of that, goes to the buyer's broker. So whoever brings the buyer gets the 3%.
So it's typically about 6%, which means you'll end up with a sale 3% if the home sells for, you know, 300, 400,000, you get 3% of that amount. Okay.
Yes.
Interesting how that works. And any advice? I do know that at least during the hot times in this real estate market, I'm sure many of you maybe know some folks that thought, I'm going to get out of what I'm doing right now because I want to make a quick buck. I'm going to get my real estate license, become a real estate agent. I know several people that did that. I know several people who are no longer real estate agents. They found out the hard way that it's not as easy, it's competitive, and the market's changed now. Some of them are struggling. And I do wonder, it does seem almost like it's not all that hard to get your real estate license.
It's not. Barriers to entry are very low to become a real estate agent, but to be a successful real estate agent, that's a whole other story. But when times are tough, it does weed out a lot of these people who got their license because they thought it was easy, because they thought they would make a quick buck. So those people, you're going to start seeing them fall out. The other people that are also going to fall out is these overnight builders that just popped out of nowhere, really, and they started building these homes. Well, they're not career builders, and those people are also going to be out, which I think is good for the market in general.
Because the homes they were making, they were putting them up real quick, they weren't quality? What do you think?
They weren't quality, and also they were selling so quickly. Whatever you put up was selling.
Okay, and now, of course, it's going to be more difficult. People will be more scrutinizing, so it does kind of weed that out. By the way, to get a real estate, just the qualifications to get to your level, obviously experience, time, and clientele, but is it a test? You have to study? How does that work? I'm just curious. And again, I'm not for, look, you can take the test and pass it, but you say not a lot of barriers. I'm sorry, you were saying, what do you do?
You study for a class, right? You have to have a certain number of hours under your belt of coursework. Then you go and you sit for a test. And the test, I would say, is not the hardest of tests. You take this test, you pass the test, and then you are licensed. You have to hang your license with one of the brokerages in town.
What if you don't? What if you just go out on your own?
You can't go out on your own.
You have to hook up with a brokerage firm.
Yeah, unless you become a broker, which is more coursework, and you have to have some experience in order to do that.
So then you hook up with a brokerage firm and take it from there, unless you get to the point where you want to start your own company.
That's right.
Something like that. You think that some of them are falling off by the wayside now? There aren't. It is very competitive business. It can be cutthroat.
Sure, it's very competitive. It can be very cutthroat. You run into all kinds of people, no experience, lots of experience, no education, lots of education. You get the whole gamut of people. Very professional, not professional at all.
Okay, but when you get into it, if someone's selling their home for the first time, or it's been years, what then do you recommend on the best way to choose a real estate
Ask
agent?
your friends and family, number one.
Referrals, number one. How did you like this individual? You have someone we could talk to, okay?
Pick 2 or 3 of the top people on your list. Google them, right? The internet's great. Check out their reviews online. See if they've had any complaints filed against them. Then interview them. Come up with your list of questions of things that are important to you. How will you communicate with me? How would you handle these situations? What is your experience like? Do you have experience in the neighborhoods where we want to purchase? Do you have experience in these price points? Ask a lot of questions, interview, just like you would do for any other job that you're hiring for.
Would you explore, what the fee is as well?
Sure.
I mean, you could say, all right, what percent do you charge? Is it the 6%? Maybe most of them will say 6. If you're convinced they're all good and one's willing to go a little bit less, you could go that route?
Yeah, but you go cheap, you might get bad service. So again, make sure that you're clearly vetting these people.
Yeah, to me, the number one thing, I guess, just from personal interaction is the communication, like you said. And that's the one thing that I think a lot of folks who go into real estate biz, and I haven't, discover is that you're pretty much on call 24/7. If you want to be good at it, you could be hosting a dinner party at your home where you have a phone that rings and there's a client that's looking at a home or really is desperate to see this home that night. And you have to tell your husband, I gotta step out for a second. Will you, if you're willing to do that, you don't have to take that call.
Right. You can have some boundaries. Now, some of us have a little looser boundaries than others.
Everyone should have some, right? But would you go on that? Would you leave the dinner party?
It depends.
Okay.
I also have a team, which is wonderful, with several agents, so we help each other out in those situations, and maybe that's the right way for you. Hire a team so that you don't have one agent working for you who might be in a meeting when the house of your dreams comes up. Hire a team, so then if that one realtor can't go, one of their other teammates might be able to.
But that still means they're dealing with you mostly beyond that then?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, get with the referrals, go and check it out.
Interview.
It is. It's a daunting thing. It's the biggest purchase anyone makes in their life pretty much, right?
Absolutely, and that is why it shocks me when people hire their cousin who just got licensed a month ago to buy the biggest asset of their lifetime.
What about every once in a while, I'll jog in a neighborhood and I'll see the signs for sale by owner.
Sure.
I mean, you can go that rate, and maybe you advertise, maybe someone just drives by, but that's it, right? I guess if you, for sale by owner, you save yourself on the real estate broker fee. Is that it?
That is why
Now,
they're
I know what
doing
you're going to
it.
say is you're maybe not going to make as much money because you're not going to have as many people looking at the house.
Sure, and you probably didn't price it right because you don't have access to the data that a professional real estate agent has access to accurately price your home. And in today's market, that is critical. Who sees your house up for sale? Generally the people driving by, because you don't have the marketing power that I have behind my business. So a few people are seeing it. You're not going to get as much for it. I mean, you can get into so much trouble. There is just so many things that could go wrong.
All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, more of our conversation. We'll touch on some other aspects. What are the hot areas in the area? Where you can maybe still find an affordable house? And the question about staging and how important that is. Is it important? Yeah. Well, we'll be right back with more with our guest right after this.